Today we're going to be talking about, I don't know, did you grow up wrestling?
Oh, heck yeah, man. Right.
I didn't grow up to any wrestling at all.
Right.
I became a fan of wrestling because my wife's cousin is a professional wrestler. And then I slowly just kind of molded into understanding it because I used to always be like the whole it's kind of fake thing, so why do I care? And now I've come to realize that there is an art form to this, especially with the film we're talking about today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about one of the things that, I was an 80s kid, and every 80s kid loved wrestling. Even if you were just like a side in the peripheral, we love watching it. So yeah, we're going to talk about a little bit about wrestling for the 80s. Iron Claw.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, and of course, you know what I'm going to say. Thanks for watching, thanks for finding us, and for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter and on, well, it's not Twitter, but X, on Instagram, of course, Threads. Also, Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Holy crap, we get to do our voting.
I know, I saw that last night. I'm freaking out.
Voting for Best of the Year for 2023. Yeah, so check out Critics Reviews as well as ours on that. And then, yes, we do have a Patreon. Booyah! Check that out for some great deals and great content and opportunities to tell us what movies we can review in the future with a cow. Of course, shout out to you.
Yeah, I mean, you could be like our patrons who picked Mac and me as our season premiere this season.
Yeah, right,
or you can pick something different. It's up to you.
We had to talk about it because that's our pick. Yeah. So, today we're talking about kind of a sleeper hit. I like sleeper, get it? Sleeper hit of 2023. It's Iron Claw.
All right. Based on the true story of a wrestling dynasty, the Von Erich family is a tight-knit crew. Patriarch Fritz is sending his boys to do something he wasn't able to do with his career in the ring. While it seems that nothing can stop his sons from greatness, his constant pushing and a supposed curse soon collide with multiple tragedies that they may not recover.
Just kind of a refresher, we did have a lot from 2023 of movies that kind of transition black and white to color. Oppenheimer did it, Poor Things did it. And definitely this movie did it, but did it the kind of signature staple black and white to view past events.
Yeah. Which is something that's appearing more and more, and I don't dislike it. I think it's kind of it's being done a lot, but I don't dislike the idea yet.
So. Right. It's kind of very fashionable right now. It's very trendy to blend in black and white and color, and of course they're doing it with Godzilla as a full feature mixture in color. A lot of packages of films, we talk about this, a bounce from color to film as well. So I don't know, maybe eventually down the line we might get an entire black and white of this movie. I don't know, mine's on options. Okay, Iron Claws stars a bunch of people that we love. Holt McCallany.
Yeah, Holt McCallany, who I knew from, Heroes back. He was in like the second season of Heroes, and that's when I became aware of him.
I knew him as a member of Fight Club.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
Fight Club, yeah.
And it's like he's always been on the periphery. Unfortunately, he's never really had that standout role until maybe Mindhunter, and I see it more here with this film. I think he's a standout in this one.
This is why I want to mention him first. This is one of the first times one of the first movies that you mentioned him first. He's kind of carrying the movie. I know it's Zac Efron, but this is much more of a Holt movie. This is really his stock is going to rise.
Yeah.
Another people that stock's going to rise is definitely Jeremy Allen White, Zac Efron, and then Maura Tierney from News Radio, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Jeremy Allen White is, of course, somebody that everybody's name is now. It's everywhere now. It's shotgun everywhere.
Yeah, I remember him on Shameless, but I never really thought he stood out to me because, of course, I have not seen The Bear. I'm one of those guys. I watch a lot of movies, guys, so I don't always have time for TV
I haven't seen The Bear either.
It's like 19 episodes. I can do it, but I haven't.
People said don't watch it and then go out to eat.
Oh, I'll watch it when I get done out and eating.
Right.
So, Jeremy Allen White's a guy who, I have very few any interactions with whatsoever in film.
I love his intro into this. You don't even see his face. You just see him kind of doing his event, and then he walks away from the camera. It's like a reverse of a great entrance kind of a thing, but you see he's ready and fit.
I just finished watching a 5-hour documentary on the Olympics, and then cut to him doing his work, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah,
I was kind of very involved there.
Very intense. I want to give a shout out to Cinematography. I'm going to try to do this name right. It's Matthias Ardele?
Wrong. I don't know. It might be.
I don't know. Ardele. He did work previously with director Sean Duncan for The Nest. He did cinematography for a film that won Best Foreign Film a couple years back called Son of Saul from Turkey.
Yep.
So I love the cinematography from this. I don't know if it's going to get nominated.
It's fantastic, and I think we
It
have
should
a
get nominated.
conversation about this film's like horrible award strategy from A24. I usually love what A24 does with their award strategy. This is an awful one. But side note, before we move on with that, Matthias also shot a film called Foe that came out last year, a movie that I wholeheartedly did not like at all. But I thought the cinematography was one of the passable parts. So. This movie, and I don't know what A24's strategy is, but by the time there were screeners sent out for this film, by the time this thing was released in theaters, it had missed at least 3 or 4 major deadlines for most guilds.
Yeah.
And so that's the weird thing is I wonder if it's going to lose that momentum or is it going to be a surprise? Because again, this episode is going to drop the day before Oscar nominations. So in 24 hours from now, as you're watching this, we'll know if this film got any award noms. I don't know if it's going to get any, but I really hope that it does.
I'm hoping for cinematography, wonderful arrangement, framing, and of course, very flow of black and white. Doesn't really look very starchy, but the color's very saturated. It feels fun. You almost want to jump in and participate in the crowds.
Well, it's what I appreciate the most about the film is that it does that 50% of the way through the film swap from being what could be generally a family drama into almost a Shakespeare tragedy. Because the first half of the film is very much just, the daily machinations of this family trying to get into the wrestling world and trying to elevate themselves.
Right. Yeah.
I really appreciate how it makes that switch over. It's fun to watch. And I saw something about the wrestling scenes that they were, unlike normal wrestling scenes shot for film, these were shot in single takes in front of a live audience in a an old auto building that had been retrofitted to
just
look
like the old days of the 80s of just, your regional pro wrestling.
Yeah, so I really love that this was a real audience watching these actors act as wrestlers performing in front of them. It's such a meta approach to something so realistic that I think that's why those scenes stand out for me and why they do feel elevated.
Acting definitely stands out for me, but one of the things that really punched it for me is editing. This is one of the best edited films of last year.
Yeah,
I guarantee it. It should get nominated for best editing. I feel so strong. I feel as much strongly about best editing for this as I did for Sound of Metal. When that won for best editing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give a shout out to Matthew Hannon, who did editing for The Nest with Sean Duncan, and also has already got awards for editing up in Canada already for twice for a film called Enemy and a comedy series. So he's already got accolades for his editing. I really like the editing. It's not just the cute stuff of sound and the quiet, but just the flow of it. And understand that we go through this journey of valleys and it's pieced really well where I don't feel janky at all. It is very a flowing, wonderful editing move.
Yeah, the editing elevates everything else in the film here, and fantastic. I think, again, Matthew also edited a film we previously talked about, Possessor, which I think is a very well edited movie as well, right? Yeah. And I think this movie, there's a lot of distinct importance to that last half of the film, especially in how the editing is done, because if you don't do the timing and the pacing correctly, the movie becomes either too intense, too dark, where you don't even want to finish it, or it becomes too repetitive because there is a lot of awful things happening all at once. The editing is what makes the film, why you're able to finish this, because it is a marathon of a movie. It is one that is hard to get through. I might have had to pause with the intensity of the film, but I was in the theater seeing it and I couldn't get out. But one thing I'll stand by and say, I really appreciated this because I'm not the central viewer for this kind of movie. I'm not a wrestling person at my core, but seeing this at the press screening was a unique experience I will never be able to unsee because I was surrounded by wrestling fans. And I'm talking that way because they all had Von Erich shirts or specific wrestling shirts, these big burly guys who were going to see this movie. They might not have seen a movie all year, and they were weeping uncontrollably throughout this film. It was a unique experience I can't replicate.
So we go a little bit investigating with the plot and story and how it's projected. I think the matriarch of the family, the patriarch of the family, is a little more grueling than what he was shown in the movie.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more force on these kids than they show a really more soft side to the dad of this. That's kind of, was his name Fritz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it was Fritz's granddaughter was on the set, and she had mentioned that Holt, kind of carried himself in the same way. Yeah. But that she did say that, he's a little more intense in the film than he is in the, than he was to me and than he was to that. extent, which I can understand. We've talked a lot about the historical accuracy, whether or not it's important in film or not. I don't think.
No,
I think this
I want to
captures
judge
that
just
life.
the content of the film. There's a lot of people that you can go back and research what.
Yeah, and I specifically see like a lot of people talking about the missing Von Erich child. There was
Chris.
one other Von Erich
Chris.
who met a similar fate to another character, and like I read somewhere that he was in the drafts of this screenplay for 7 years. There was like Chris was part of the cast. And it was only in about the last year or two when he was omitted because they realized it was ruining the narrative flow of the film. And I think this is a definitely a time where you can say, like, I'm sorry to say he wasn't included, but we're making a movie. It has to exist as a movie on its own merits. And I do think including one more Von Erich and including one more tragedy was going to topple the film.
I love how they focus on Zach's character, and he's not the one that shines.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the other ones that get their opportunity to shine.
Yeah.
His other brothers, but we kind of focus on him, and his kind of almost doesn't really fit in necessarily with the group.
Yeah.
He almost feels like an outsider. We talked about that a lot about structure of your protagonist. Sometimes does feel like an outsider, even when he's inside the group.
Yeah.
And you get that definitely with Zach's that Von Erich too. I love the structure of it. Maybe out of the blue, maybe a best screenplay. I don't see it for that.
I don't see it happening, but I would love to. If you were giving me like, Kyle, what's your dark horse? What's the one you really want to see
This is it.
in there? I would say it's going to be Zac Efron as the lead actor. I don't think he'll get it. There's that fifth spot that's still in the open. I don't think he'll get it, but I do think this is a career best performance for him. I was really hoping to see him shine in last year's Firestarter remake, but that film gave him nothing to do. He had absolutely nothing to do. And this is a film that is able to control. Durkin and him had a lot of intense conversations about his portrayal and how it was going to be. Zac Efron was not allowed to cry on set until the last day of filming, when they filmed the last scenes of the movie.
Sure.
And I think that's
good
a very important thing to give to him, because there is that toxic masculinity that is inside this family. They're not allowed to be weak. They're not allowed to falter. And that was given to Zac Efron as a performer. You're not allowed to show weakness in their performance.
And while to be an individual, you're basically working for dad.
Yeah,
100%.
And you're an extension. The kids are the 5 fingers of the dad's fist. In a lot of ways, where it's just they are only extensions of who he is and what he wants to be. And so many of them, especially Stanley Simons as Mike, they clearly don't want to be in that world until they realize it's the only way to get my father's love. Exactly. And so in a lot of ways, he is the architect of their own destruction.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think of our take on Iron Claw? My God, I really, looking back, I should have put it somewhere in my top 10. But my top 10, there's a lot of good things in my top 10.
Yeah, I knocked it. It made it to number 10, and it got knocked off a couple days later. It was just on that edge of like it was
like 11 or 12, right?
Yeah.
So. What do you think? Is it a top 10 for you guys? Keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Are you fans of the wrestling world? Did you know the story beforehand? Were you like me and you watched it on Dark Side of the Ring, a documentary series, and then I knew about the story and wanted to see this version?
Well, I think that Von Erichs came to the AWA, which was here in Minnesota on Saturday mornings, and I think one of them, Carrie came for one of them.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So he endured the cold with the rest of us. Right. Let us know your thoughts on the film down below. And where would you place it in your top 10 of the year? Is it there? Is it in your worst? And give us your reasons why. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay fit.